All right, so we're joined by my friend, Madison County Schools parent, Madison Central alum, Chamar McDonald. We thank you so much for joining us. Human resource recruiter at Neil Schaefer here in Jackson. I got a room full here with me at Velma Jackson High School. We're recording this for all of our friends in Madison County Schools, Madison Central, Rosa Scott, Germantown High School, Ridgeland High School, the Academic Options Center, and our YouTube channel. So we're in the architecture and construction career cluster, and we thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you all for having me.
Now, I know you said you wanted to show us some stuff, and we'll talk about all you've done and do there at Neil Schaefer and all the all the cool projects that you guys do that we actually see every day and don't realize you guys have a huge hand in it. Uh, but take us back to the beginning. Class of 2001 at Madison Central played football on the state championship team, starting safety on the 99 state championship team. Played basketball a little bit. One of the heaviest recruited baseball players in Mississippi history at that time, and a fifth round draft pick of the Kansas City Royals. And you were a professional baseball player for 3 seasons.
Yeah.
So take us back to that, because we have a lot of athletes in here, and even though you were a professional athlete, you took school seriously and you took grades seriously, and that led you to become what you are now. But take us back to your athletic experience, because I think a lot of kids don't realize the level the level of play once you get out of high school and out of middle school. It is just on another level, because I remember we had a funny conversation about it right after you started playing, and you were like, man, I know I was good, but everybody here is just on another level.
Correct. And like I said, good morning again, everyone. Growing up in Madison, you're allotted a lot of things. And so what we had was a lot of baseball. And we played a lot of football. Everybody grew up together. We had close-knit communities, whether it's Madison, Ridgeland, Flora. And so a lot of talent was pulled together all at one time. And so when we got ready to play sports, it was, hey, you got to show who's the big man on campus. And so I was pushed by some just tremendous teammates in general. But not only the teammates, you kind of have to be pushed by the parents and the community. And y'all, the one thing that we have here in Madison is a great school district. And so the school district always kind of put us in the right place. And I think that's a really good, it's a really good spot to have. But growing up in Madison, I played baseball my whole life. I think everybody loves football. I mean, I think that's a given. Everybody loves football, male or female. Football is the easy thing. I had a lot of older friends that played basketball. They grew up in the neighborhood. They were 5 years older than me. They were way taller than me. So I loved basketball. I ended up getting hurt playing basketball. I got hurt playing football. And so baseball was kind of just this is easy. And my first year, I know y'all don't know much about numbers, but I hit 575. So for average 575. So in major leagues, if you hit 300, you're considered in the Hall of Fame. So in high school, I was hitting 575. So every other at bat, I was basically getting a hit. And so life kind of came at me fast, and that was my 10th grade year. My junior year, I was playing basketball, and I tore my ACL again. And I actually played my junior year on a torn ACL and received a college scholarship with a torn ACL to what I consider one of the best baseball programs in the country, LSU. So I was signed to play baseball at LSU. I had surgery on my knee my senior year, and then I went off to complete my senior year. And at the end of the senior year, I ended up getting drafted by the Kansas City Royals. So I left Madison Central 2001, June of 2001, and 2 or 3 days after graduation, I was a 17-year-old playing against the Yankees in Tampa.
Wow.
And yeah, it's just a whirlwind. It was just a whirlwind of the things. But I think the one thing that got me prepared more than anything was the school district. The school, the family, your teammates, your coaches, and things like that. I was really prepared for what I was actually getting into.
Yeah, and even though you made it farther than most people ever make it in sports, and you had a career of 3 years, you were still going to school at Holmes, and then you wound up going to Ole Miss, which has one of the finest civil engineering programs in the in not just in the South but in the country. So take us, once your baseball career ended, you had your college time. So take us back to your first of all the decision to go to Ole Miss, and then how that led to where you are now.
Weird story. Ole Miss came about. I told the newspapers once I got drafted, I was going to Mississippi State to do engineering. And I just so happened to be playing pro baseball, and I got a phone call from one of Ole Miss's football coaches. And this is how I ended up at Ole Miss, was to actually go to Ole Miss and play football. So I was going to play professional baseball and college football. And Mr. Pyer can kind of explain to y'all that I was a little string bean. So I don't know if I was ready for SEC football at the time. I was about 6'3", 180. So that wasn't going to happen. But I ended up at Ole Miss. I went to Holmes for 2 years. So my college career really started a year that fall after I was drafted. I started going to Holmes. So I immediately went to school. I took advantage of my scholarship that was put in place by my professional baseball team. So I went to Holmes and started taking some classes and things like that. And eventually, 2 years after, I was going to Ole Miss during the fall, and then in the spring, I would leave and go play professional baseball. So it took me 8 years to get my engineering degree from Ole Miss with doing this. So school and then baseball, but the one thing that my mom always instilled in me was, school is important, and that's the one thing that no one can take from me. My legs, my knees put me down. I'm 41 years old now, and I have to have a total knee replacement. And I was always hurt back then. And growing up, the thing was you can't be hurt, and so your best ability is your availability. And so I had to put sports on the back burner and actually concentrate on my education.
Yeah. And then I know you caught on with Neil Schaefer, and I remember when you were really proud of it. We talked about your first big project was the Fortification Street, the Fortification Street project in Jackson, which was a huge project. And civil engineers, people in construction, it's not just building houses. You guys are building roads, you guys are building bridges, you guys are building power plants, you guys are building dams, you guys are doing landscaping. So first of all, that was a really cool project to start on. But tell us all, what all goes into that.
So here at Neil Schaefer, we are an independently owned, privately owned engineering firm with over 600 employees over 9 states. We're slowly creeping into Arkansas, so we'll probably open up some more offices. So we were ranked, I think, top, 202 on the 2024 Engineering Journal for top engineering firms in the country. So we're a big firm. We have a lot of people that assist on these projects. Some notable projects that people would know about. We assisted on civil site work for Amazon or Costco. So when I say civil site, that's all the preparation prior to anything going vertical. So all of the ground, the parking lots, parking spaces, drainage, and things like that. Do a lot of big roadway projects. And I wish I knew some of the projects that we have in other states, which they could be upwards of $40–50 million. One of the most recent projects I worked on in the Jackson-Madison area was the relocation of about 7,000 feet of railroad behind Target. So we added, so what that did was that opened up East and West County Line Road. So now you can access Tougaloo just by my direct line of traffic. And so, I can basically show you that engineering is all about problem solving and creative thinking, because what that did was now it opens up a whole vast majority of land and availability to Tougaloo College and all of that area over there. So, that's kind of why I chose engineering. It's all about problem solving. And when we say the word STEM, we think about the science and technology, engineering, and mathematics and things like that. And so that is very important. There's always going to be a need for that. And, I can't stress that enough. So if you're interested in that, definitely look into it. It's very, very important thing. I think it's, like I said, it's needed, and it will always be needed. It's something that will always have to be there.
Yeah, and then as far as engineering programs, I know we've already mentioned Ole Miss. Mississippi State also has a great civil engineering, and Southern Miss also has construction management, civil
And
engineering that
yeah,
also works hand in hand. Also, Jackson State has the new
also
urban
has,
planning.
yeah, so the Miss also has Architectural Engineering Technology School, which is our CAD people. So we're looking at people that go to Southern Miss to do a lot of our drawings. Nowadays, a lot of the younger engineers are doing their own drawings, but that CAD experience, and when I say CAD, it's that get on a computer and AutoCAD, MicroStation, and these other like Inventor and things like that. Now, granted, I'm just speaking about civil engineering, but there are so many different types of engineering that someone can choose from environmental, computer science and things like that. But those CAD techs are the ones that kind of actually take what the engineers are thinking and actually put it on paper. So those are major components, and you know, I would be remiss in my new position to not say, we're such a big engineering firm that not only do we have engineering, we have accountants, we have, marketing people, we have everything. So that's a big thing, there's always going to be a niche. And once you find your niche, you find that company or you find that place for yourself and kick down that door and knock it through.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned the CAD because a lot of people think construction and they just think that's just people outside all the time. There's people behind the scenes that have to do the planning and design the blueprints. And I know Holmes has the associates in drafting. Jackson State has the new urban planning degree. So it's not just I'm going to be outside getting hot and sweaty all the time.
Yes, and that's the hardest thing, and this is where critical thinking comes into place. Anybody can draw something on the paper, but when you actually get outside, I mean, I've been on projects before where we draw on paper and like, oh, this is going to be perfect, and we get out there on Capitol Street and there's trolley tracks from 1935 that we didn't know were underground, and so we had to remove trolley tracks. So it's easy to draw it on paper, but then when can you have to pivot, and sometimes you have to pivot, and that's when that critical thinking and problem solving comes into place. But my I love to draw. I also love to be outside in the construction. I actually wanted to do architecture. I realized there wasn't a lot of money in architecture, so that's why I became a civil engineer. But the CAD aspect of engineering is what really kind of excited me. You can kind of, it's bringing everything out of your mind and putting it on paper, and I think that's a really good, it's a really good career to have.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, when it comes to civil engineering, it's any type of construction project. We talked about the CAD people and the engineers and the designers and things. But if we have kids that maybe say, look, I don't really want to go to college, you guys are deal with the tradespeople all the time. And these tradespeople are vital. And not only are they vital, they make really good living. So talk about the trades that work alongside these engineering firms.
When you think about it, we have what we call CE&I, which is construction, engineering, and inspection. So, not only do we have people that design these projects, and we have the people that actually have maybe transitioned up from the actual design work and have gone to, hey, I got to go get this project. The people that make all the money, the ones that go get the money. We have people that inspectors and things like that that physically go outside and oversee the projects for us. And as a part of a lot of the contracts that we do with MDOT and things like that, we're required to have specialized people in place to oversee the projects. And so that works hand in hand. And we work with these contractors. I know everyone always sees like Hemphill or like other contractors that do like Utah Construction. And these people are the ones on the dozers and stuff. As Neil Schaefer, we're not the ones that are physically doing the work, or we're actually overseeing it, but there is a lot of components that go into completing a project.
Absolutely. And that's why I like to say in class, everything has to be built. It has to, but before you ever start building it, there's a lot of planning. So these CAD certificates, these trade certificates, these and I mentioned the drafting associates at Holmes, just to plug Holmes a little bit more. There are multiple ways to get into this, and you guys are always looking for talented people.
Correct. And to piggyback off what you said, we had a webinar the other day, and it was about being a lifelong learner. You're always going to be learning. You're going to be learning. You're going to be trying to figure. I literally have every 2 years I have to go back and get. I'm looking at this certification for construction stormwater management. And so if I go out on a project site, I have a certification that shows that I'm competent in stormwater management. If a project were to like start flooding or things like that, or erosion and things like that. So you're always learning in this world, and whatever job you choose, whatever you think to do in life, continue to get better, continue to educate yourself on what's next. And I think, like I said, Madison County Schools puts you in a great position because you're getting better people, and you're always, they're always trying to figure out how to push the envelope on, reaching out and making, our kids grow and do better things. It's crazy how smart these kids are nowadays, you know. So I envy them. You always have people graduate. I think that's a great thing to have.
Absolutely. Now, before I get to the students' questions, one thing I wanted to hit on real quick is, when you think about civil engineering, you think about the whole any type of construction, you always think men, but you guys are always looking. There's a big need for women in this field as well.
Yes, and that's a big thing. So in my particular office alone, we have had 3 students from Madison Central come in and intern with us. When I say Madison Central, I'm on the engineering academy board at Madison Central. But this past year, we had a young lady that came in, and she got 70 hours of work time with me here at Neil Schaefer. She's also she graduated Madison Central, and now she's at Mississippi State. But women minorities are the big thing right now because engineering is considered a dominant, male dominant industry, and there's so many avenues and so many places for women to make their mark, and I think we're advancing as a community and as a society, and women are just as important, and we really have to realize that. I have a daughter, and I think about that. I wouldn't want her to be cut off from anything. I want her to have the same resources that men have. So I think that's very important. It's very, very important to recruit at colleges and universities. We also look for women to fill in these positions.
Yeah, and the good thing is, our 10th and 11th graders, they can start learning some of these skills to translate into that. They want to do our construction program at MCTC, our engineering and robotics program at MCTC, and I know they would love to have more students just to, because if you know a little bit about construction, that helps you be a good civil engineer. If you know a little bit about engineering, that helps you be a good civil engineer, a good CAD person. So you can start learning these skills now in high school, and that can translate into being a great professional in this field.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's what we were always taught as young engineers was go get a construction job during the summer. You don't realize that engineering. Yes, it is the smarts and it is the books and things like that. But it's the common sense. It's that man that works for the city of Madison, and I use Madison because I'm here in Madison. I grew up in Madison, but that man that works for the Public Works Department for the city of Madison, he may not be an engineer, but he's literally done everything that I've done. I just have a piece of paper that says I'm an engineer. He solves problems every day. He does everything, and we work alongside the public works directors and the public works department as well when we do certain projects.
Absolutely. Well, I'm gonna get to as many of these questions as I can. First one is Rakia Jackson. She's in 10th grade, one of our cheerleaders here, and she asks, "Did you always want to be in the architectural field?"
I think so. My dad was a contractor, and he built homes around here in Madison Jackson area. It's so weird. I find myself always drawing. I always make sure I draw with a straight line. And it's still a little bit of architecture with me. I will, if something is not perfect, it's almost a little OCD. I will like erase it, make sure it's a straight line. So I did a lot of like doodling. I always did a lot of drawing and things like that. I would build stuff. I get amazed by going to bit larger cities and seeing buildings and stuff. So when I got my engineering degree, of course, I didn't do architecture, but I pivoted and I had my emphasis in structures. So
Wow.
I was actually more enamored with bridges and things like that. So I did 10 years of bridge inspections here at Neil Schaefer. So I would travel around the state and I would inspect bridges, just bridges on local back roads, down dirt roads and everything to make sure they were safe for people to travel over. So that was a pretty good, but it kind of, like you said, it kind of tied in that architectural, structural background into my current work.
Yeah, and you said sometimes you were just literally just sitting there counting the amount of cars that went over it, so they would have to see how many cars are going over it in a day.
Correct.
This is Zayden Reed. She's in 9th grade, one of our basketball players here, and she asked, "What are some of the difficult things you've had to overcome to get where you are?"
Some of the difficult things, you know, being a younger engineer, you have to kind of learn on the fly, and sometimes you have people that are your mentors, your people that are over you. You have some that kind of walk and hold your hand, and you have others that just say, "Go figure it out." And like I said, I think with those ones that when you have to go figure it out, I've walked in a meeting before, and I've never ran a meeting before, and I had my office manager was a military guy, and I walked in the meeting, and he gave me the books, and he said, "Hey, I'm about to leave. Can you run this meeting?" And it was just trial by fire. And so, you know, these projects that we work on are very difficult. We have to work, being a civil engineer, that word civil, we have to be cognizant of the public, the civil. Not only are we working to help, you know, fix problems, I might end up in somebody's backyard and we have a big drainage ditch and a pipe, and we have to worry, make sure that that house doesn't get flooded and things like that. So there's a lot of stress when it comes in it because you're working for the public. You know, the public uses you to use your expertise to put them in a safe place. And I think that's kind of the best way to describe it.
Absolutely. I like this one. This is Chloe Luckett. She's in ninth grade, one of our cheerleaders here as well. And she asked, if you couldn't have played baseball and you couldn't have gone into engineering, what would you have wanted to do?
That's a tough question. I don't know if I've ever thought about that. I felt it's so weird when you're an athlete, you're like, oh, I was supposed to play sports the whole time. I don't know. I still play a lot of video games with my son. Let's see. I'm trying to actually think about stuff. I don't think I care too much about business. You know what? I always get going to the dentist, doctor, some sort like that. You know, I know that they don't tie hand in hand, but then, you know, civil engineer, then a doctor, so you worry about more roads and things like that, and then you kind of actually have the body itself and things like that. And I hurt my knee enough to where I know a lot about a knee. And so maybe a dentist or doctor or something, some kind of orthopedic type person and things like that. I think that's really pretty cool. I love computers. I love, you know, tearing things apart and kind of putting it back together. I did do a lot of building, just on the side, a lot of woodworking and things like that. But I would think dentist and doctor probably. I would probably be the best one. Dentist or doctor.
All right, this is Cameron Sutton. He's in 10th grade. And he asked, what would you say is the hardest thing you've ever worked on?
Hardest thing I've ever worked on. Hmm. Let me think. I'm trying to think of. It's more about. I don't think that the projects themselves are hard. It's the deadlines. It's getting a deadline and knowing that there's a $15 million project, or we have a $17 million project, and we had like a month to complete this project, or the city of Jackson was going to lose the $17 million. And so that was a hard thing because of time constraints, things like that. You know, the projects are a lot, they're kind of easy. They're more easy when they're in the design thought process. But when you physically get on a project and the contractor may hit a gas line and you hear just the loudest, most horrible noise you could ever think of, and you're out on the project site and you're trying to solve that immediate problem, where you have to shut down, you have to call the fire department. I mean, when you think about it, even this West Carolina Road project, we had only a certain amount of time. There's one train that goes from Jackson to Nissan. So we had to tie that new train track in at a time to where that train on Monday night could cross that train track on Tuesday morning. And so we had to be complete. That had to be done in a certain amount of time. So you know, there's a lot. It's more time than anything. You know, physical things, they kind of go in the contractor, and it kind of goes to us to actually help them solve that problem. But time constraints make things a lot more difficult and stressful.
Yeah, and then and I think that ties into to college work deadlines. And then even as an athlete, you know, deadlines to get back from injuries, deadlines to report to camp. So deadlines are going to be a huge part of whatever career you go into. And I don't think they realize that yet, that it's going to only be tougher.
Yeah, and I think and you've called out you know, everybody said cheerleading and sports and things like that, the basketball players, your teammates, it's a team sport, and those teammates help you get across that goal. And the teamwork aspect of cheerleading. I mean, cheerleading more than anything has a lot more teamwork than anything. You have to be on time to do every tactical skill and things like that. So, we're calling a certain play in basketball or doing certain things like that. Is that translates into real world things. Not just saying just engineering, but that goes into a lot of things you do. And I think that being a part of one of these teams, and I would strongly advise. I didn't do a lot of uh I guess you could say clubs and things at school, but I kind of had to learn on the fly. But being a part of these teams and things like that, that translates into real world things. I literally put that on my resume, and I think that was
Yeah.
one of the things that colleges like to see or employers like to see. Like, oh, this person was a cheerleader. This person played basketball. They know how to work as a team. So I think that's a good thing. And so I think always be you can brag about yourself because I think those are good things to have and good things to show employers
Absolutely.
to be on this side of being an employer.
I just got one more, and I love this question. This is Renaya Matthews, and and I will preface this. It's hard to believe that it's been 25 years since we were standing at Veteran Stadium as football state champions, and it seems like it was yesterday. So the time just unbelievably flies by.
It
And
does.
she asked, when you were in high school, did you ever see your future being like this?
I did not. Um, I was I didn't even know getting drafted in high school was that big of a thing. I knew I was good in baseball, but it was just kind of like, I was always good in sports. So, I'm like, oh, eventually I'll be playing sports one day. Um, and it's so hard. Somebody asked me a question, and I want y'all to think about this. It's not, if somebody asks you, where do you see yourself in 5 years? This kind of question kind of goes back into it. It's not where you see yourself in 5 years. It's thinking about where you were 5 years ago and are you in that spot? And I
Wow.
think when you get to that place in life, which now y'all can see in 5 years, where do you want to be? We can all say that, hey, everybody wants to be in college and graduated or, working somewhere and doing things like that. But then when you get to that point, you remember where you were in high school and how you performed and how you did things in high school. Is that something that you can reflect on and say, all right, I've done well these past 5 years. These next 5 years, I'm going to do it like this. But no, I didn't think. I didn't even think. I was an engineer for 13 years, and it's weird. Mr. Pike didn't realize. Me coming up to Belmont and doing things like this, it kind of my work saw that, and they said, "Hey, you're so good with the students. Can you stop being an engineer?" And I still get to do my engineering on the side. I'm doing some baseball field and stuff. But can you stop being an engineer and can you recruit college, high school level kids to teach them about STEM. So I'm recently signed up. I'm signed up for 17 career fairs in the fall. So from LSU to Georgia Tech to everywhere. So I did not see myself doing any of this even in October of last year. So, I went from engineering to like now I have banners and everything and I'm recruiting college students. So, we had 20 interns last year. My first year we had 37.
Wow.
So 37 to 50 companies. So, we're continually growing. And so it's a different environment. And I realize I'm the extrovert engineer. That's one thing. The engineers are weird. So I'm the extrovert. So I get to do the hard stuff.
All right, now we're almost out of time, and as always, it's such a pleasure for you to join us. And like I said, it seems like yesterday we were kids, and it's just such a joy to see another teammate, another classmate, another Madison County School product and parent join us. But if these kids are interested in any type of civil engineering, like you said, you guys are always looking for interns. So when they're in college, why should they consider coming and shadowing and possibly working one day at Neil Schaefer?
Yes, it's a great firm. And we big in diversity. We just did a new initiative for care, service, and excellence. So we're definitely we think about our employees. It's a big family here. We get to work alongside some of your best friends. You don't realize once you start working, you're sometimes you're at work and you see your coworkers more than you see your actual family. And so definitely look into engineering. Neil Schaefer, you know, like I said, hey, if you don't want to work here, I know we want people to come back home, but if you don't want to necessarily be in Madison or Jackson, we have offices in Dallas, we have offices in South Carolina. You know, we have
Cool.
offices everywhere. But the company itself is growing, going in the right direction. I think, 2 years ago, we were at like 414 employees, and I think we're at 617 now. So, you
Wow.
know, it's 200 people. We have debris management, so where we oversee where hurricanes happen, we oversee that, and we own you know, here's another thing real quick. We own a subsidiary called Baptech that does our drones and our surveying and things like that. So, you know, even those people y'all see on the side of the road, it looks like they're taking pictures, they're actually surveying land, or we have drones that fly up, cell towers. We do cell tower work. So, it's a great firm. And like, as you can see, there's so many different services that you know, we offer that, you know, the endless amount of work.
Yeah,
And
and
we're
our
doing,
drone program also over at MCTC. So that's another program they can
okay.
get into right now in high school.
Yes, correct. I see, I love drone. I have a drone myself, so I fly it. So you know, that's one of those things, you know.
Awesome. Well, again, we thank you so much for joining us all the way down the road at Neil Schaefer, Chamar McDonald, Madison Central alum, Madison County Schools parent. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank y'all so much.
I talk to you soon, buddy.
Nice. You too.